Hey everyone, what's up? Danny or Hector for Barbecue here to review VHS 2, the sequel to last year's film VHS. Directing you have Simon Barrett. He was also a producer and writer as well. He produced and acted in the first VHS, acted in A Horrible Way to Die, and was one of the writers for The ABCs of Death. Also directing you have Adam Wingard. He was also a producer as well. He directed Homesick, Pop Skull. He also wrote and acted in that as well. And he was one of the directors and actors in the first VHS. He directed A Horrible Way to Die, You're Next, and was one of the directors for The ABCs of Death. Also directing you have Eduardo Sanchez, who directed Altered. He also wrote and acted in that as well. Directed Lovely Molly. He also wrote that as well. And he was the director of The Blair Witch Project. Also directing you have Greg Hale, Gareth U. Evans, who served as a writer as well, Timothy DeJonta, who served as a writer as well. He directed Macabre and was a writer on that as well. And he was one of the directors for The ABCs of Death. Also directing you have Jason Eisner, who served as a writer as well, and was one of the directors for The ABCs of Death. Also directing you have Rob Cotterill. He was one of the producers for The ABCs of Death. And the last you have John Davies. This is produced by Rob Kelly, Tom Owens, Zach Zeman, Roxanne Benjamin, who was one of the producers for the first VHS, Gary Binkow, Kyle David Crosby, Brad Miska, Jamie Nash, who served as a writer as well. He also was a writer for Altered, Lovely Molly, and Two Front Teeth. And last you have Kimo Stamble. Makeup effects are done by Mark Duvall, Monique Hyman, and Stuart Hirsch. And the film stars Lawrence Michael Levine as Larry and Kelsey Abbott as Aisha. And the main plot of the movie is the wraparound story, which is called Tape 49. And the plot is as follows. Searching for a missing student, two private investigators break into his house and find a collection of VHS tapes. Viewing the horrific contents of each tape, they realize there may be dark motives to the student's disappearance. Now, this was a way better wraparound story than the one in the first VHS. It was creepy, bloody, and gory. My favorite scenes from it was when the missing kid puts a gun under his chin, blows his brains out, but he survives somehow, and you see his head tilted back with like his tongue hanging out of his throat. It looked fucking sick. I was like, oh damn. And the other scene I liked was when the female investigator gets possessed and she starts walking around like Reagan from The Exorcist, like the spider, and her nails like clicked against the floor when she did that, and it just creeped me the fuck out. The first story of the film is called Phase 1 Clinical Trials, and the plot is as follows. After being in a car accident, a man loses his sight in one eye and has a corporation's experiment tested on him where a camera chip is placed into his eye to record the status of his eyesight. The doctor tells him he may experience some glitches, and that glitch is him now being able to see ghosts. A girl from the doctor's office he leaves shows up at his house and wants to talk to him about this glitch, and tells him she used to be deaf until she was 16, had a cochlear implant, and shortly after she started to hear white noise. This one was a ghost story. I thought it was creepy. I jumped in parts, and you have a hot redheaded chick with her septum pierced who shows her boobs, so that was my first favorite story of the film. Next you have the second story, A Ride in the Park, and the plot is as follows. A guy riding his bike through the woods runs into an injured and sick woman screaming for help. He then notices zombies coming, and she turns into one. Unfortunately, he gets bit by one of them and he tries to fight them off. He then gets sick in the same fashion the woman did, puking up black stuff. He then becomes a zombie himself, attacking two other bike riders in the woods, turning them into zombies, and they make their way out of the woods and to a little girl's birthday party where more chaos ensues. This one was a horror comedy. It was bloody and gory though. My favorite scenes from it were the main zombie blowing his brains out with a shotgun, the main zombie and one of the girlfriends of the guys he bit. They were eating his guts, and the main zombie gets a pitchfork stabbed into his eye and he pulls it out. But this was my least favorite story of the film. Didn't really care for it too much. All this really had going for it was the makeup effects. Next, the third story is called Safe Haven, and the plot is as follows. A documentary crew goes to report at Paradise Gates, a location of a seriously fucked up in the head Indonesian cult, but this documentary crew have no idea what hell they're in for. This one was your Asian horror film mixed with some zombie and demonic elements. Definitely the most bloody and gory story in the film. My favorite scenes from it was when the quote-unquote father of the cult comes walking towards the surviving character and he just spontaneously combusts and you see fucking blood and gore all over the floor. The father stabs a box cutter into the throat of one of the cameramen, and all the people in the cult turn into like these zombies or ghouls, and they look really fucking creepy. And one of the girls from the documentary crew gives birth to this black goat creature. I guess it's supposed to be Satan, but this one was my favorite story in the film. Definitely the best one of the stories. The last and final story is called Slumber Party Alien Abduction, and I really don't even have to talk about this one. That title pretty much sums it up, but I'll talk about it a bit anyway. The plot of this one is parents leave their son and daughter along with their friends home alone. They plan to have fun, but their party's cut short when surprise visitors show up. At first, I really wasn't caring for this one. It's just a bunch of kids fucking around with each other pulling pranks, but once it gets to the alien abduction is when shit really hits the fan. I thought it was really creepy. Enjoyed this one a lot. And final thought, the production values and the acting was miles better than the first VHS. The makeup effects were well done. Everything to me looked practical. Didn't notice any CGI. The movie was original, solid, and creepy, except for the second story, but that's rare for a modern day horror flick. And the main plot, the wraparound story, got right to it instead of taking forever like the first VHS did, and it ended the movie like it should have, unlike the first VHS, which wraps up the wraparound story before the last story. I mean, how do you fuck up something as easy as that? But anyway, overall, VHS 2 was so much fucking better than the first one. Superior in every way. I was not a fan of the first VHS, but it had potential because it had some good things going for it, but it just fell flat on its ass. This movie, VHS 2, is what the first VHS should have been. Definitely the most enjoyable horror film I've seen in the last 4 years. So anyway, that's it for this review. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will leave the link below to VHS 2 for those of you who want to check it out. So thanks for watching, and take care. Later.